you've been told yourself. Welcome, welcome, family. Yes, I ain't got to tell you the sun is shining out there because it is shining. We've been getting it. Look like on my computer says 86 degrees and sunny. I don't know what it's gonna get up to, but in Cleveland, but we catching it too, and I think that's all around the country is experiencing this extra heat going on. But that's okay. We're gonna bring in a little heat. We're gonna have a good conversation today. I'm gonna lead a conversation in the importance of culture, and I think Brother Vince had put a link into chat to where you guys can actually come on and talk about it as well. If anything sparks your interest and you want to add to the conversation, want to remind you guys tomorrow. Today is here. We are here tomorrow, Sunday, Mediterranean. Come on out to the Motherland Connection, touch and taste of Africa. We're preparing the African food for you to taste. We're gonna have a good time. Our good brother, Psychotic Nut, Terry King Bay, is gonna be jamming the tunes for us. You guys come out in your queendom and your kingship and look royalty like you supposed to be and supposed to act. You know how we do it, how we did it in the past. So come on out if you still want to get tickets. 216-323-6155. 216-323-6155. Give me a call, get your tickets. Come on, be in the place, and let's enjoy ourselves and partake in some good African cuisine because a lot of us call ourselves African Americans and never had the food before, let alone know how to prepare it. In the remote studio, we got Brother Vince. What's going on with you, Brother Vince?
Man, a whole lot is going on, and I hear you saying it is hot. Something kind of unusual about that. I don't want to start any conspiracy theories, but it just seems kind of odd, man. But yeah, there's a lot going on. I just want to share with our listening and viewing audience that I am going to be participating in the Border Light Festival on July 25th through 27th. The appearances will take place at the Hermit Club, and you can go online to borderlight.org. I'm going to post some information about that before the show ends. You can go there and you can get your tickets. I'm happy that folks are happy that I'm in this particular festival, but I really need your support, and it's a very worthy cause. One of the things that I'm going to be doing with this performance is highlighting and amplifying the situation that deals with our brother Winston Willis, who, as you know, was a millionaire who had his empire of 28 businesses removed from the footprint of Cleveland. He's still alive. He's in a nursing home in Fairfax, which is really in the shadow of what he formerly had. So we want to bring attention to his story, to his life, and we'll be doing that during the performance. So just stay tuned. I'm going to give you all the information that you need to come out and support. And I will be partnering with Third Space Action Lab, who have a book. They have a book that was written by his sister, Andra Willis Carrasco. It details his entire life. I'm sure you will find it to be a great read. So that's what's coming up for me. Next week, I'll also be performing at Neighborhood Connections. It's going to be at the Brown Hoist at 6 o'clock. That's at 4430 St. Clair Avenue. I'll be playing piano, and you'll be able to come and network with other artists and find out about some of the opportunities that exist in Cleveland. And finally, tomorrow evening, we're going to be doing an evening of jazz at Rudy's Pub. I just spoke with bassist Craig Lee. He's going to join us tomorrow. So we're going to have a funky good time tomorrow night. Y'all can come on down 2191 Lee Road. It's going to be absolutely free, and you can enjoy the festivities there as you endure this summer heat. So that's it for now on the updates on performances. Now we can get on with the show, Brother Hamptonio.
Yes, yes, sir.
I think you are
Yeah,
you muted?
no, I'm good. Now the
Okay.
computer was acting up for a second.
Okay.
Yes, again, we've been doing this show for quite a while, and we bring have brought an assortment of guests and information, to our listeners, and always, we can't get enough of talking about how important it is, for us to find ourselves and understand who we are. Because I was at an event last night, and the question came up again about culture and who we are and what we were doing before some of us was brought over here with the Atlantic slave trade. And I said that was an interesting point. We need to talk about what were we doing. Was the gods that we were dealing with, or the spirituality that we were dealing with, is it the same as what we have right now? I used to give a person, you know, just some foundational stuff when we start talking about the Bible, spirituality, and religion like that. And I just would tell them something simple like, if we was the first on the planet, would it be safe to say that we probably discovered God and spirituality first? So if it started in Africa, why does it have to go through Europe and then come to you? And the funny thing is, I got into a debate, with him, about 4 or 5 people, and they was all against me, or at least debating me. And they seem to, that rationale seemed to escape them, you know what I mean, of understanding. Let's go to the origin, because you find out that a lot of the scholars, biblical scholars out here, the ones who, they say armchair business, biblical scholars, they really don't know the history of the Bible and its origins and where it come from. And when you start talking about 325 AD and Council of Nicaea, it was one of the first councils, and they had several councils throughout Europe, leading up to the Bible. They really get lost in the sauce when you start talking. And I just did a simple Google about the Council of Nicaea, and it said a couple of interesting things about their collaboration on how they put the Bible together and deciding what books that was going to be in there, and some information about Jesus. And then, and surprisingly enough, they decided then, was they going to make Jesus the Son of God or as a prophet? It's right there in Google. So, and this in 325 AD, way after the death of Jesus. And then for them to concept and grasp that things like the Ten Commandments and the resurrection and the birth story and all those things predated, Moses and all the rest of them by many years. So a lot of us, become locked down and not understanding, and really not even open for somebody to even say, hey, wait a minute, because we can talk about all the evil that we have experienced under the current regime that are ruling. They agree with you 100%. Yeah, it's been murderous, it's been warring, they've been lying to us, they did this to it, did this to it. But when you talk about, well, they could have lied there too. They could have manipulated that too. They tend not to get it. Oh no, no, oh no about that. I say then, well, why some books got 66, some got 99 or 102, 103 or whatever. What the point I'm making, there's different books that's left out. And I found out that there was a book of Mary, because I always used to make the argument of, why ain't no woman in the book? God don't talk to women, you know? So, all those things like that, they tend to overlook and not to even talk about, and not having any critical rationale or a critical analysis on why is it like that? You know what I mean? And it can get you really frustrated, because it seems like they don't open up their minds and they don't think about it. And then tying that culture into what we had and what we did. Because I would say this, I believe and truly believe, through my time in research like this and doing this, our ancestors have figured out pretty much most of the issues that we are dealing with right now. The major foundational issues, what I'm talking about. Which a culture gives you what? What's the purpose of a man? What's the purpose of a woman? What's the purpose of a child? What's your relationship? How to resolve problems? How to do business with each other? How to get along in the community? Your role and responsibility to the community. Those are major issues that Black folks are having right now. And then I always say, then you tried everybody else but your own ancestors. So I just wanted to touch on a little bit about this importance of culture. And we have to look and do the Sankofa and look back and see what we left behind. You can't entrust everybody to tell your story, because you have to understand, if one ethnic group is controlling all schools of thought, even your theologian schools, who's it ran by? Your medical. We talked a little bit about with Dr. Goldman about the AMA and the Rockefeller, pretty much starting that and running that. So he's controlling how doctors are trained and how they think. All our universities and grade schools and things like that. You getting a rendition from their worldview on how they see things. You may see things differently. You may approach the body, how you look at spirituality, how you look at the body, your relationship to God, your relationship to nature may be totally different. And that's the tragedy that most of us get us going. It's a tragedy that we get caught up into that and believing that this is the only way to do something. What you've been showed, Vince, you talked about it, and I've seen it too. And we talked about how did Japan deal with their school. They don't take no tests until the fourth grade. Up until then, they teaching them respect, honor. They cleaning up their own school. They teaching them their culture. So it's a different pedagogy. It's another way to do something, and we think this is the only way to do things because this is the way we've been shown. And that's the tragedy of it. There's another way to do things. You don't have to do it this way. Like Dr. Later Africa say, it don't take 6 years to study an eyeball and to understand an eyeball. That don't take 6 years. Who said that? Who made those rules? You see, but we caught up in it, and that's a part of the brainwashing and stuff again, my brother.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of identifying one of the major issues, and that is control of the narrative. So
Yeah.
our perspective on history is what they've told us, and they've told us in a way that favors them and not us. There's an old African proverb, and I'm not quoting it exactly, but the gist of it is the tail of the lion and hunter will favor the hunter until the lion
Right,
learns to
right,
write.
right,
You
right,
know,
right.
um, a couple of days ago, I witnessed a really great webcast. It was actually on Zoom, and it was sponsored by Urban Intellectuals. Urban Intellectuals make flashcards that involve Black history. And one of the presenters was Dr. Chike Akua, who has been a guest on our show a couple of times. And he said some really insightful things about history. And what I'm gathering from what he said was, it's just, as you said, so important for us to know the truth about history, because as we have been given the wrong story, we've been given it in a way that does not empower us. We're in the midst of a whole bunch of Juneteenth festivals and celebrations and so forth and so on. And somebody posted on Facebook earlier today, and the point that she brought up was the fact that, or she was asking the question, what are we celebrating? And I think it's a very legitimate question, because we celebrate Juneteenth, and then we'll go to December 18th, as some do, and talk about the ratification of the 13th Amendment and say, okay, well, because of these two things, we're free. But the reality is, in so many ways, freedom does not exist in this country. And so when I look at freedom, I think about something as simple as taxation. To me, taxation is just another form of slavery, and it doesn't affect just one group, it affects everyone. Because when we go to the store, when we work our jobs, when folks die and leave something, they get taxed again. We get taxed in so many different ways, but we have someone telling us what freedom is, and we accept that definition of freedom, when the reality is folks are still dealing with slavery. When they ended slavery, so supposedly they just created a new paradigm that continued slavery. So there was a
By another
magical
name,
point.
they say.
Yeah, there was a magical point when we so-called accepted the end of slavery. They called it Reconstruction. And during the Reconstruction period, Black men, because they were able to vote, black men got involved in politics or politrics, as some might call it. And then they realized that, hey, wait a minute, black people are starting to prosper. We can't let that happen. And so they
Mhm.
did everything that they could to remove the
Mhm.
power that we
Mhm.
had because we
Mhm.
participated in the
Mhm.
process.
Mhm.
Now, if you fast forward to 2024, you'll see that this state has implemented measures to take, I think, something like 150,000 voters off the rolls. So if
Mhm.
you thought you could vote yesterday, well, today you can't vote because you didn't do something that you were supposed to do. So for those who think that voting is not important, when you look at the idea that they'll do everything to suppress our ability to participate in the process, it does matter.
You see, it's nobody gonna go through all that effort, Vince, if it didn't matter. That's too much time.
Right, you're right. So now we have the nouveau Jim Crow. That's what I'm gonna call it, the nouveau Jim Crow. We talk about this all the time on the show. This whole idea and concept of white supremacy, and we say it with the same fervor that we describe ourselves as minorities. The power to define is critical. And what we have to do is redefine some things. So I
Mhm.
say no more white supremacy. I call it pseudo white supremacy psychosis. Let's call it what it is.
Mhm.
We call ourselves minorities. I've repeated
Mhm.
this in the past and I'll repeat it today. We're not minorities. Do you
Mhm.
realize that there are more African people on this planet than anybody else? And if we are
Mhm.
African, we're part of that. Now, you got culture on, I've got culture on. We can amplify who we are by portraying ourselves in something that's close to us. We can play the game and wear suits and ties and all that other kind of stuff because you have to adapt, so to speak. So, on Saturdays you'll see me sitting here in a suit and tie, but that does not diminish my Africanness at all because here this is where
Mhm.
Africa exists. Here
Yeah.
is where the connection to the past exists. Here is where the connection to our ancestors exists. And all of the things that they went through exist within us.
Mhm.
You have to understand that those of us who are in this country who have endured the enslavement process and all the things that came along with it, we are the strongest of the strong. Another thing I want to point out, and this is something that came out in the webcast the other day, is that there were 250 instances where black people in this country fought for their freedom. And in
Mhm.
some of those cases, they were successful in attaining their freedom. That part of the story is never told.
Mhm.
We look at Black Wall Street and we all, we have a certain amount of angst and, negativity about what happened there. But if you see that those folks rebuilt what they had, they recovered from something that would be devastating enough to just deter anyone from ever wanting to do anything ever again. But they
Mhm.
rebuilt. That's the story that needs to be told. So
Absolutely.
we
Mhm.
we have to take over the narrative. We have to begin to redefine ourselves in a way that empowers us and doesn't diminish our value and
Mhm.
the strength that we have as individuals on this planet.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I quote Dr. Amos Wilson: if we don't teach our and train our children to fix our problems of today, then what are we doing? You see, that's why it's ever so important. And what Malcolm say: how you letting the people that put you in this system teach your children? We got to get to the point of really critically analyzing what are we doing. You know what I'm saying? Complacency has just ran rampant with us. You know what I mean? And I know there's a big psychological effect going on. That there's a lot of money, time, and energy has been placed into getting us to where we are right now. I understand that. And I tried to debate that with folks because they want to look at everything that's going on with black folks as on the surface, on the end product of what we dealing with. Look at it. The white man didn't have nothing to do with that brother knocking him on the head. I said, yeah, indirectly he does. I say when you go to the doctor, and and we talked about medicine, and everybody always kind of like up to it now that we treating the symptoms mostly. We're not getting to the root problem of the problem. With that same situation, let's get to the root problem on why that person is acting up like this, why he don't care for himself, why he don't care for his family, why he don't care for his community. You wasn't born like that. That was a created behavior. You got to understand that. And who's responsible for the narrative of what you talk about and the images which you talk about that he is receiving? And that affects a person mentally, how they act and things like that. And then if you don't have a community that supports that culture, which I was initially talking about, then what do you have? What I say, culture teach you how to do business. What's your role in society? Just what's your responsibility to society? How to resolve problems when you got problems. You see, if the kid ain't getting that, remember, folks have rites of passage programs that take you off and take you away from your parents and train you. If you missing all of that and you get the hero always looking like somebody else, if you don't have those stories that you talk about, those 250 revolts that we didn't just sit back and just take that, even if it's a conflict that you lost, you still tell those stories on how amongst all the odds, you still rose up and tried to do something to defend yourself and to defend your family. No reason. They're not going to tell those stories. What reason would a man give you anything that's going to help you take his foot off of his neck? That's critical thinking. That's critical analysis. So like I was telling you, have to take what you know right now and damn near just revise everything, because everything that you're getting is from the outlook, the worldview of somebody else, another ethnic group, and that's fine, because they look at things different, that they do things different. My point is, just realize the fact that you're getting it from another person's perspective, and it ain't in. And I'm here to say it's not in your DNA, brother. The way things that this system is guiding you and shooting you the narrative to believe, it's not in your DNA. You are having a battle amongst yourself, inside yourself internally, that your subconscious mind and your conscious mind is battling itself. Your subconscious mind is saying what your ancestors tell you, dude, this don't even feel right. You should know better than this. But your conscious mind is saying, well, this dude is paying the ticket. He's paying the money. You know what I'm saying? I need money to survive and things like that. So I better do what he say. I better look like him, talk like him, dress like him, because I got to feed an internal battle. You're going through a battle. So again, it's important. Like Dr. Amos Wilson also said, a culture is economics. And he explained it. He said, look, it's not just your dress, your food, and this, that, and other. It's economics. If our culture say we wear these type of shirts, okay, guess what? Somebody in the community is making these kind of shirts. And guess what? The money is being distributed amongst this community because that's our culture. You see? And right now, they're destroying us as a people. This system is destroying us, man. Because I was talking to a young brother and listen to the mindset of where he was coming. I'm gonna say this. He might have been halfway joking, but listen what he said, Vince. He said black folks was God's gift to white folks. And he was saying it to the term that, yeah, well, they're alpha, so they, overtaking us, and so that's the way it is. The strongest survive. I said, you don't supposed to do it under the auspice of enslaving somebody else. God made you to live in harmony amongst people, the planet and everything else. But he wasn't seeing it. The strong survive type of mentality. That's where he was coming from.
Yeah, that kind of lines up with the idea that somehow black folks got a benefit from being brought to America. You know, there's some that extol that narrative. It's crazy. I just wanted to mention right quickly that if you'd like to join us in conversation on the air and on television or on the internet or however you want to look at it, you can go to the 360 Info Network Facebook page and grab a link, and I will bring you into the studio and you will appear on camera with us. You can also go to my Facebook page and grab that link, and you'll be able to join us in the conversation out there. You know, back in the day when we were going to the station all the time, we had these things called phones, and people would call in on the phone and we could actually patch them through. We're doing our program a little bit differently, and it's completely online. So again, if you'd like to join our conversation, you know, our brother Todd was someone who called in frequently, but I think Todd might be visually impaired. So I don't know if he would be able to join us, but we welcome anyone who would like to jump on the show with us if you have something meaningful to say. You know, it's funny looking back at the days when we were in the studio. We got a few callers. You know what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
We got a few callers that may not have had anything meaningful, but we know that those of you who are watching us today do have meaningful comments. And if you don't want to appear on camera, you can also just drop your comments on the chat, and then we can share those things with those who are viewing us.
I think you could take your. Can't you take your camera off on the
Yeah,
on
you can take the camera off, but it's a little bit disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can see us, but we can't see you.
Well, they may not be dressed, or their hair might be. You know, I'm just saying.
Right.
They might want to
I
have.
want to I want to go back to something that you brought up, brother Hamptonio, and it's really just about the whole idea of rites of passage and culture and its relationship to the family. Because a lot of the issues that we have right now are happening because the nuclear families, in some situations, not all, because there's also the narrative that black men aren't present for their families, and that's not true. There are some who shirk their responsibilities as fathers. There are others who take those responsibilities seriously. And we have to amplify the good as much as we do the bad. We talk about Cleveland, we say it's the worst place in the nation for a black woman. There are sisters in this city who are thriving. So it's not negative for everyone. It's a case by case situation. But again, when you perpetuate a narrative that it's the worst place in the country for women and people take that on, internalize it, and believe in it, then what motivation do they have to do anything differently than they're doing right now? The crux of the issue is the power to change things is within us, and we have to take that power seriously. When I look at relationships between black women and men and women, and I look at some of the things that come through social media, it's apparent to me that it seems as though there's a war between black men and women. And you know, one of the most successful strategies that was employed by, I'm going to say, those who attempt to oppress us is divide and conquer. So if you can keep black men and women at odds with each other, a lot of times they're at odds with each other because they don't understand their respective roles.
And
You
you back
know,
to you back to rites of passage again. Go ahead.
rites of passage. You know, if we have a clear understanding of how things are supposed to be, then we have something to work towards. But if we don't, then how can we work towards a common goal when we don't have any unity in our ideas and our objectives? So it's just it's amazing to me to see this division and the unrealistic expectations. You know, on my Facebook feed, you know, in the videos, I'm getting Kevin Samuels videos, you know, and I've gotten to a point where I gotta back up. I gotta stop taking that stuff in because I'm hearing all these things that are related to physical appearance. You know, I hear things that are
Economic standards. Go ahead.
economic standards, you know, and this is no disrespect to sisters because, you know, I know that the woman, her name, maternal, is linked to material. There are some folks who say that women like shiny things, and they do. In our society, women are the ones who spend the money. they're the greatest consumers because part of their role is to create a beautiful environment for the family. So with what they know, they acquire the right cookware, the right draperies. They make things right and
That's
comfortable for everybody.
the
And so
aesthetic.
what we
Mhm.
do in a successful relationship is we empower them to carry out that role. When you look at the
Okay.
role of the man, the two things that always come up are protect and provide.
Mhm.
Protect and provide. What we're witnessing in this age is a blurring of the lines in terms of the roles.
Mhm.
So when you look at who's going to college more than anyone else, it's the sisters. If you look at those who, to a certain extent, not fully, because for some strange reason, and I could be wrong about this, but I think what I've seen is that black men out earn black women in the workplace. I don't know how that could happen because I know in my situation, I worked at an insurance company for 27 years. And when I looked up to see who was in management, it was really more sisters than there were brothers. And
Mhm.
and if there were more sisters than brothers in management, then they were definitely out earning us. But I'm just coming back to this adversity between black men and women. And I think what has to happen is that there has to be a greater level of communication and understanding. Yeah, things have changed. Back in
Mhm.
the day, our great grandfathers, our grandfathers, they worked, and our great grandmothers and grandmothers were at home and they were raising children. You
Mhm.
know, that's not the rule today.
Mhm.
Back then, most of us were married. That's not the rule today. So
Mhm.
things have changed. And what we're seeing, at least what's being talked about, is a difference between masculine and feminine energy.
Mhm.
And these are things that we have to come to grips with, understand, and then embrace so that women can epitomize feminine energy and men can epitomize masculine energy. And we can bring these two roles together for the
Mhm.
success of our families. The family is the nucleus of our success.
Mhm.
We talk about education and we expect to go to a school to learn things to empower us, but we can go back to the conversations that we had with Dr. Gallman and Chike Akua and others, and we can understand that the role of education was not to increase our power, but it was to take our power away from us by teaching us things that weren't productive. You know,
Mhm.
brother, I went to school for 12 plus 5. I went to school for 17 years. And I've learned more in my life outside of the 17 years that I spent in the classroom.
Mhm.
Education does not end when you leave the classroom. It's really when it begins. I've had conversations with my mother, and she tells me about some of the challenges that she had with the education system. And just like me, I went through that process asking about history. Well, where we at? I had a conversation with my 12th grade history teachers, and I told them, I said, hey, I know about slavery, I know about the Reconstruction period, and I know about Dr. Martin Luther King, but I don't see what black people were doing in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. It's not in the book. And what he said to me was, well, I can't tell you because I wasn't taught.
Well, I see. Yeah. Wow. When you say that, it remind me of I was manager at this restaurant, and a little young teenager white girl was there, and she just wanted to be letting know that she was comfortable around blacks and stuff. You see, I wanted to know about Africa, so I asked my teacher, how come we don't learn anything about Africa? The teacher said, well, there's not much to talk about. I was like, whoa, Jack. I said, these are the teachers that are teaching our children. But to go back and what you were saying too about that road, that adversity, the African proverbs. So that's what I'm saying. They dealt with they got this down to science. This thing called life. He said that what they say, the ruin of a nation, what begins in the homes of his people. The man knows that. That's why he take the man out. That's why he calls conflict. They also say that the best way to immobilize a people is to keep them consumed in their own discord, never getting anything done. Have them running around all crazy. So another thing is pick up, learn yourself, and then also we have to, and I probably guilty with this as well, in trying to change the society or change him. Dr. Wilson say, change yourself, and he would automatically change because you changed yourself. You know what I mean? You acted differently. You did something differently. So he has no choice but to approach you differently because you change. Things are the way it is because the way you are. So if we concentrate, that's why we talk about. Let's look at our ancestors, what they laid down. Listen to the knowledge. Look at the rites of passage. Start teaching our own children. So if we change the way we think and the way and our outlook and overview of the world and our summary with God, our relationship things, the man, you're gonna walk different. You're gonna act different. You're gonna be different. And guess what? And he have no choice but to treat you different because you change. So he has no reason to change anything. If you keep doing the same thing, you put on a football game, basketball game, bring some concert to town. Like you said, next week we doing our parade downtown. We're gonna have the black soldiers there, some representatives from the Tuskegee Airmen. Guy gonna come out and have a booth set up, talk about the Negro League baseball play. Hey, we plan to pull people downtown to enjoying something that you can, have a good time, nice family event, and guess what? Learn something at the same time. But if I say Patti LaBelle comes in, because people complain, oh, we got to go downtown. I don't know about the parking downtown and blah, 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 blah. Let Patti LaBelle or somebody come down there. It'd be busting all over. See, we got to change what's important to us, our values. You know what I'm trying to say? And so we keep on acting and being like that, and he knows that just sinking us deeper and deeper into, this subconscious funk that we in, and not being critical and analysis, being analyzing things in a certain kind of way critically. Why should I change? He run the same play. So why should I change? So change yourself, he automatically change.
Yeah. You brought up something that kind of touched a nerve, and that's that whole idea of distraction. Now that we're living in this information age, and I catch myself sometimes, for some reason, I just feel compelled to pick up the phone. And this
Mm-hmm.
phone will actually tell me how much time I've spent on an average on a daily basis. And when you look at those numbers, you be like, dag, why am I on my phone so much? But, you see people walking down the street, they're staring at a phone. You see somebody sitting somewhere, they're staring at a phone, and we stay plugged into that information so much. This is part of the distractions that they create to keep us away from going within ourselves, because within yourself you will find the intuitive power. You will find that voice that speaks to you. And this is my opinion. I'm not a psychologist, or I'm not a historian, or any of those things, anything that would apply to this idea, but the voice of God is what you hear speaking to you.
Mm-hmm.
There's the voice of God that tells you that what you're about to do is wrong and you shouldn't do it. And you
Mm-hmm.
can choose to accept what you're told, or you can choose to ignore it. But it's nobody else speaking to you that way. You might hear truth coming through other people, but this is one of the things that people need to be aware of. The whole idea of sports, and I get it. Bruh, when I grew up, I played football, baseball, basketball, took judo. I was doing all kinds of things in addition to everything else I was doing. And sports, they do have a role in this society because they demonstrate our ability to do things. But one thing that I picked up in that webinar is also the fact that some of our power, and I'm speaking of male athletes, has been diffused because we put our energy into playing sports, and we don't put our energy into doing things like fighting racism. standing
Mhm.
up for black people. Okay, there's a lot of
And
energy that goes into
that's
sports.
where the problem come in right there. That's the only problem I got with it right there. I love it
Yeah,
too. I play basketball, football, but this
yeah,
just ain't the
yeah.
time, my brother.
Right. But see, another thing that it does is it creates this paradigm of competition. So
Mm.
instead of working with each other, we're working against each other. And we put a lot of energy into that. So what do we do to our brothers? We reward them for their physical ability to play these sports,
But
right?
but look at the psych behind that. Go ahead. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I just want to bring up this point.
Mhm,
We
mhm,
reward them for their ability to do that. And then as a
mhm,
result, all of our young people
mhm,
look up to them. And why
mhm.
do they look up to them? Because they have an ability to acquire material.
Things.
And they haven't been educated about the power of the resources that they are able to acquire. Now you got a few folks who got it.
Mhm.
Michael Jordan got it. I mean, Michael Jordan, he built a golf course, bruh, to suit his game because he got tired of losing against other people. So he set the course up so that it would favor his strengths and not his weaknesses. That's what you do when you have capital. Now, he's done some other philanthropic things, but that's what you do now. But when you look at the statistics, many of those who go through this professional sports paradigm, they end up divorced, broke, all kinds of things because they squandered all those resources that they came in contact with. The agents run things. You got attorneys, all these folks that are around you when you get access to this capital, and then you squander that. And then you have situations like we're here in Cleveland where we got an African American museum that needs some funding. We got the African American cultural gardens that need some funding. If somebody has the kinds of resources that Michael Jordan or any of the others, Shaq, all these people who get put up on these pedestals and get all these opportunities, they could bless somebody with $3 million in it. It would be like a drop in the bucket. When you got billions, what's $3 million? And then when you look collectively, and we talk about this all the time, all the Oprahs and the Diddies and all them other folks that got all that money. But then when you look at what's really going on with them, you see
Mhm,
a certain level of evil that surrounds them. And if they're
mhm,
involved in evil like that, then the last thing on their mind is to empower their people because they have the same attitude of exploitation. We can talk
mhm,
about Diddy for a minute because when you look at his history, you can see that over a period of time, he took advantage of artists that he was involved with. You know, this is something that I've thought about for a while, just thinking about his situation. The name of his label was what? Bad Boy Records. And I remember that song that he did with Craig Mack. And the first part of that song, he says, "Bad boy, come out to play."
mhm.
I'm like, bruh, what you talking about? And then you get into the song, and then your boy LL Cool J. Remember his part of the rhyme?
No, I don't. Go ahead.
Peachy, delicious, blotitious. What are you talking about, bruh? This was years ago. And now
So,
all this stuff is coming to the surface and people are seeing what's going on in that industry. I looked at the situation with Diddy and Meek Mill, and then they played they played the audio recording of what was going on, and it's like, what's going on here? And then you look at Diddy, you look at Clive Davis. Now they're getting ready to launch an attack on Jay-Z. Again, somebody who's got billions of dollars, but there's a certain level of evil in that paradigm because when you look at the things that Jaguar is saying, she's shining a light on the things that have really been happening. Now you look at this person and you see that they got billions of dollars and you put them on a pedestal and you worship them, but you don't know what you're worshiping. And again, this is all a part of that paradigm of exploitation that sucks us in and takes us away from who we are as a people and as a culture, because we're
That's
so
okay.
entrenched
Mhm,
in a
mhm,
paradigm that
mhm.
doesn't benefit us, you know.
That.
And this is why,
Mhm.
and I'm glad brother Steve um is with us. And Steve, you can join us just by going to my Facebook page. The link is on my page. You can click on that and you can jump in. This is why it is so necessary for us to be the musicians, to be the singers, to be the ones who use music as a way to lift us up as a people. Because right now,
Mhm,
the music is not, in large measure, it's not being used to uplift us. It's being
mhm,
used to keep us in a certain place. You know, those
mhm.
record companies, they are the ones who amplified gangster rap. And now, bruh,
Mhm.
it's been so long since I just listened to the radio, because so much of what I was hearing was something that just, first of all, I couldn't understand it. Two, it just doesn't resonate. So I'm thankful for groups like Hugh People Ensemble and others who make a deliberate effort to bring music that edifies our soul. I went over and sat in the heat over there in East Cleveland and listened to my folks singing, and they're singing Stevie Wonder. They're singing music that gives you a reason to be happy about who you
Eh,
are.
but two things. Before we have seen that's why history is important. We have to understand that this guy has recruited scientists, German people, to understand and implement mind control. Mind control is you have to get that, people. You got to get that to understand. They've been working with this mind control things through images and how to get you consciously and subconsciously to do some things for a long time in this country, and they have perfected it. See, we being worked on daily by the hour, so it's important to know that, and also to know about letting you know some of the inside secrets or things that are going on in that whole Hollywood vein that you was talking about. I was just with my brother listening to Shannon Sharp. He was interviewing. I don't know even know how old it is. Y'all might have seen it before, but he was interviewing Terry Crews, and he let a little few little things out to let me know to stay on the track of what my belief systems and how this system feels about you. He talked about some things on the football field. They was going through. They didn't care nothing about them brothers' health. If they said they was dizzy and having headaches, they didn't give a dog on. Get your behind out there, black buck, and get out there and make me money. They treated them just like they was slaves on the chopping block. You know what I mean? And then he talked about he let out a few gems on the when he got into the movie industry, how they was being treated and what was going on. And you remember he had the whole little being groped by one of the executives, and he sued him, and he let out a couple little nuggets on that, on how what happened afterwards when he came out like that, and how he would be at different places, and some of the people be pulling him to the side, crying and say, "It happened to me, man. It happened to me." So it's been going on. They're around there. I mean, and the question is, who's running that industry? Who's running those, putting that bad boy record stuff out, letting him be the gatekeeper to all that stupidness? See, they let them rise up to those millions because they know they ain't gonna do nothing. They ain't gonna create no schools. They ain't gonna do nothing. They're gonna amplify that same stupid stuff, and they're gonna keep feeding them, keep these niggeros in certain amount of level check. So then he just go run crazy with the art. I'm gonna manipulate this artist. I'm gonna manipulate this artist. They let him do what he wanted to do to him. They kept them quiet while the 1%, the puppet masters, keep running everything and keep letting him keep his same certain status quo. And everybody reaching, I'm gonna be like Jay-Z, I'm gonna be like P. Diddy. You think you're gonna reach that dream, but they just the gatekeepers for all this craziness that's going on. This is what we dealing with. We got to start take over that stuff. I say go back to
Yeah.
bingo long and the all stars type of thing. Let's own our own stuff. You got enough. You can't create your own movie. If we was culturally bound back to culture again, if we was culturally sound, we would say, hey, yeah, I might not be watching it in one of those big theaters, but guess what? I'm watching a movie that we produce. And I'm in a stadium that we work in with some of our greats, and we employing more black people, more young black folks. We got more young black folks going to HBCUs. You know what I mean? And we ain't begging like that. What Deion Sanders did, he could have changed the whole game for the school. We wouldn't have to be going out there begging like this, and kids would have been going to HBCUs rather than going to Duke University. A college scout would go on the corner of 124th and St. Clair if he know that you dropping 50 points every game. He coming to see you. We got to, but culture teaches you all of that. Giving back. Why ain't Ted? We need to get a hold of Ted again and train them kids, and so they know their responsibilities that they got to give back to the community, because these people are siphoning dollars. Every one talented person is being sucked up by the agent, the press agent, the banker. They feeding about five families off of your talent, man. We got to do better than
Yeah.
that. We
Right.
just we just let them go
I
out
wanted to,
out of the sharks and get taken advantage of,
yeah.
and then they go ahead and sick the white women on
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you're taking me back to that Kevin Samuels piece, man.
them.
He talked about sometimes how the white woman would be willing to invest in that young brother at the beginning of his career before he got the
mm,
deal, before he came into
mm,
everything. Now they might be, crafty enough to say, okay, I want a divorce after 20 years or 10 years or whatever, but they invested. But what was said was, and this is not me speaking, this is just me repeating something that somebody else talked about. They talked about how sisters wait until they get that, and then that's
mhm,
when they
mhm.
get with them, you know, and then they might employ the same strategy. I've had enough of this cat. I'll walk away with half and I'm good. But before we leave, I wanted to touch on politics right now, because we find ourselves in a place once again where we're being forced to choose between the lesser of two evils.
That's
I
right.
saw a Facebook post earlier today, and Biden was described as this person that gets the job done, that has our interests at heart, all this other kind of stuff, as opposed to 45, who, apparently does not have our interests at heart. I mean, anyone who stands up at a podium and says, I will make sure that critical race theory is banned. Well, first of all, he can't do that because he doesn't have the power to do that. The states would have to do that on their own. And not all of the states are in alignment with his strategies, philosophies, or whatever. But just getting back to the idea of choosing between the lesser of two evils. This is my position on this. And I'm sure that there are folks who will take
Mhm,
exception, who are ensconced in Republican, Democrat philosophy, whatever. But from my perspective, they're both equal in their evil. They're both equal in their evil. So pragmatically, we don't really have a choice. And the truth of the matter is, we're going to take whatever they give us. And then whatever we get, we have to do the best we can with what we have. That's the reality of it, because no matter who's in office, racism is still the same. The structural element that is in our institutions across the country, it's still the same. We extol the benefits of going to college, but college, home ownership, those two things are things that put us in a position to struggle for the rest of our lives.
mhm,
You go to college and you take out loans to make sure that you have enough money to pay for your education. And then you pay on that debt for the rest of your life. Getting back to what we talked about earlier in the show, that's still slavery, because you're paying
mhm,
a debt that doesn't really pay off. You know, when you graduate from college with that 4 year degree, or you get your master's degree, or whatever you do, and you can't get a job, and if you do get a job, you don't get one that pays you enough to be able to afford that house or car, and then you go into debt. So where's the freedom in that? You look at
Mm-hmm.
how they twist the education system to suit those who are wealthy. So certain students have advantages, and they can go to schools that will get them that job because they went to Harvard, they went to Yale or whatever, you know. But most of us who can't afford those educations, we don't get that same advantage. So that whole paradigm was put in place to be an advantage for certain folk and not
Mm-hmm.
everyone. And the evidence of that is the fact that the 1% own and control everything. And they're looking to take it even further, because we're seeing the largest transfer of wealth in the history of our country taking place right now. We've been joined by Stephen E. Boyd, who many of you may know as a vocalist and one of the founders of the group Hugh People Ensemble, or Hugh People, actually. We're going to welcome him to the broadcast. We're also going to wrap up our terrestrial broadcast on AM 1490 WERE. So as the time winds down, I just want to give big ups to our engineer, Tone Harley. He makes it happen for us week after week. We are definitely appreciative of what he does for us. He is the man and at the controls, and because of him, we're able to do this. We'd also like to thank all of those of you who are listening. We're going to give you details about the Emoja Parade and Festival next weekend, and also that ball that's going to take place tomorrow night at
Tomorrow, 6 p.m. at the Mediterranean. Give me
the
a call.
Mediterranean. So
Mhm.
stay tuned. We'll give you more about that. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today a great day, everyone. Peace.
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 All right. Um, Welcome to 360 Info Network, Mr. Stephen E. Boyd. He's someone who's been extremely supportive of this radio broadcast, and we thank him for all that he's done to amplify what we do. What's on your mind today, Brother Steve?
Oh man, what a question! I don't even want to answer that myself. There's
Mhm.
a lot on my mind, just like I know it's on y'all's mind. A lot of things are on the minds of thoughtful people. I posted a little meme the other day on Facebook, and it basically said that there's no way to be a perfect person, but there are a million ways to be a good one.
Mm.
And so, and I think that what that says to me, in one sense, is that there really are millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of good people out here too.
Mhm.
Millions of good people. And what really gets me about these times, all those things that you all mentioned are so appropriate, apropos, and providential, really, with regard to explaining where we're at. But the ingredient that always that I always try to bring to bear with things is the and put on our minds, really, is that really since 1965 we have been dealing with a technological revolution. That's the only revolution for sure that has really, 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 truly happened. And it's the technology. Technology is driving every single thing that we are dealing with here now. And it's affecting us to our very bone marrow, technology. And what do I mean by that? I simply want to say to you that the powers that be that are in control in this moment right now, as they have been, are doing that because of their ability to master and control technology. And they knew that when we got to this time frame now of this technological evolution that we've gone through, revolution since 1965, that they knew that technology would be in the hands of the masses of the people. the very thing that they're using to do what it is that they do. So when we think about that, what does any of that really mean? It means a lot. It really means a lot. The technological innovation that started all of this was the transistor. And
Mm-hmm.
from the transistor was the leap to that thing called the microchip. It is the microchip that has caused us to be in this situation. Why? Because information could travel at digital speed between 2 points. And the smaller the chips have gotten, the faster technology has been able to move, because you were moving the same amount of data between 2 points, and that those got smaller and smaller and smaller. So if you just can grasp that, then every tool that's being used to keep us from being able to get into what Vince was just talking about, what's really important, our spirituality and our minds and our ability to think about our culture, it's all driven by the amount of data that's coming at us. This smaller chip that I'm talking about has allowed us, and here's the thing, it's allowed us to be different from any human beings that have ever existed, ever. And for this one simple reason, no other human beings since the beginnings of time have ever been exposed to this amount of data. The data that we're dealing with, we've got it coming from all directions. Television programming like never before, radio programming, satellite programming, digital information through these computers, and we're being overloaded with data. And we have to learn how to process that data. We have to learn how to process it. It's not about the computers learning how to process it. It's about us learning how to process all of this data.
Steve,
Now,
I want to jump on. I want to jump on something that you said because it is so on point when you talk about technology. And what we're witnessing right now as a result of that technology is part of what is implementing the transfer of wealth that we talked about. You know, I had a conversation last night with someone who told me that their son was really into NFTs and all that digital stuff, right? And this is someone who's you got a little few coins. And I said, bruh, you might want to think about getting some Bitcoin. His son spends endless hours involved in that technology and he's reaping financial rewards for it. But the important thing to understand is the importance of technology in the financial world, because right now assets are being moved into a digital paradigm via the technology that you mentioned. We're in a place now where they want to do with fiat currency. One of the things that is important to them is to control how we spend our money. So in Europe, for instance, if you want to spend more than 500 or 600 euros, you can't, because they've created measures to prevent you from doing that. And they're forcing you to use digital currency as opposed to fiat currency or paper currency. When you look at the advantages that are in that, if you had what, $50,000 in gold, do you know how much weight that would be if you wanted to transport 50 ounces or 50 whatever or $50,000 worth of it? It would be a lot. But with your phone, you can use something that will enable you to carry the same value on your phone through an app. If you traveled across the world, you went to Africa and you had all this money and you wanted to spend it, you couldn't walk on the plane with $50,000 in cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely
you could use digital technology. And see, what they're doing right now is they're tokenizing assets. So they're creating a digital space for assets. So your home could actually be digitized. This is the strength of the blockchain. But when you talk to most people, they don't know anything about this. And it's important for people to be empowered with the knowledge about that paradigm so that they can be successful in their financial dealings, because everything that we have, they want to take it away from us. Their slogan, and we talk about the World Economic Forum, is you will own nothing and be happy. And their plan is to institute just that. So this
Let me
is just something that I'm interjecting to implore people to become more aware of the digitization of our economy so that you don't get left out of the game. Right now is the best time for you. It's this wide open window to get involved in digital economies, because sooner or later it's going to be too late. The things that could take off and make lots of money, like Bitcoin initially did, those days will be over. And those who thoroughly understand the system will get the maximum gain because they've employed it. 3 years ago, the world's largest asset managers were poo pooing cryptocurrency. And now they are the largest investors in it. With that said, that should be a clue to you that is something that you need to pay attention to.
Can I interject this, Hamptonio? I know you want to say something.
Oh,
Let me say this very quickly. I don't proclaim and profess to be some kind of expert really about much of anything. There are several different things that I know a lot about. So what I'm sharing with you relative to these thoughts about technology, it's very important because I keep myself in two places. I try to. I'm where Vince is. I know everything he's talking about, but I'm right here down on the ground with the average Black person who is trying to figure out, how am I going to make it through the day? How am I going to pay my bills? What kind of job do I going to get? I'm 2 steps away from needing welfare myself. I don't care what you think. And I'm saying to you, I understand the struggles of everyday people, and the struggles of everyday people relative to what we do know and what we don't know about technology. See, 90% of the average people, they have no idea what you just got through saying, Vince, because they do not know how to make these leaps about any of this. It's far too overwhelming. And I'm in the reality world here. People are figuring, what do I need to do? Great, but I got to pay my light bill this month. I got to get gas for my car this month. I got to feed these babies. So all I'm saying here, all I'm trying to say here now is that we need our scholars. We need our people who have, you don't have to have Shaq money, because Shaq and the rest of these people, I'm not putting them down. They done showed you we don't have time to think about what you're talking about, and we're not going to do it. We're not going to do any of that we could do. Oprah and none of the rest. And I'm not casting aspersions. That's their issue. That's their karma. You ain't got to have Shaq money. You could just have $1 million stashed somewhere or 300,000 stashed somewhere. Those kind of people that got that kind of money. If we pooling our money together, there's some things that we can do. But I'm saying we have got to talk straight to our people and help them understand what that means when I said what happened in 1965 and how does that have direct bearing on you today. We really need to know that. And we need to know that clearly. We don't need to take advantage of that. Because if we don't do that, then we're not going to know why we need to be thinking historically different, thinking culturally different, making changes to things that we do to acculturate ourselves. We won't know why we need to make the changes. And we've got to make those changes. And as we do that and allow our culture to begin to start dictating to us how to live, if we let our culture dictate to us how to live, we will invest our money the way we're supposed to be doing it. We will be raising our babies the way we're supposed to be doing it. We will be building our businesses the way we need to be doing it. But we got to get to a place where we're there with our culture. And this technology has got us messed up.
But that's pretty much what I was saying. The system is dehumanizing us in so many words. We wrapped up in it. Like I said, you're just out of touch with the realness. See, and
We're
I don't know.
overwhelmed, man. We're
I,
overwhelmed. We're
mm,
overwhelmed. People are
mm,
in anxiety. People are committing suicide. People are going crazy out here in the streets far too often. Not, and don't get it twisted, not the majority of us. The
mm,
majority of us, 80 to 90% of us, are just able to somehow or another still get through it. But boy, that 10%, which includes that crazy ass 1% that got all the money, that
mm.
10% of this world population is driving us all crazy. Most of us are sitting back looking at it, just trying to figure out how to survive, man.
And see, here's the thing. Dr. Gorman may be back with us soon. We got into a conversation about it, and he was basically, and we kind of know it a little bit, but he got a little deeper in it on how does that affect the body, and consciously and subconsciously being in that state of mind that you just described, Steve. And he's going to connect that to the health issue as well, a deeper part of that health issue as well on that, and what it's doing to the body. And then we talked about the solutions to that. And the solutions to that is that history of what we talked about earlier, Vince, of talking about your history and feeling better about yourself and knowing that you made some contributions to your history. You might want to call it feel good history, but he was saying how therapeutic or how that's good for you in dealing with all this stress, that survival mode that you talk about, that this system has got us into. And they dangling these carrots in front of. We got to have this. I got to make the move here. I got to do this. I got to do that. He's saying how physically how that is tearing you up and wearing you down, man.
Yeah,
And our health, Vince, as you have
yeah.
spoken to, Vince, our health,
That's what I'm talking about.
our
Yeah.
health is just it. If we can't get anything else, we've got to figure. I got to get my health. I got to go back to blackness. And Vince is telling you, you better watch your money. You better watch them three things. Your spirituality will. You've got to be a spiritual person. We've always been. So we know spiritually we've got to get where we need to be. We've got to get a grip on it, Hamptonio, what it's doing to us mentally. We got to get a grip on some finances. But we got some deep understandings that we got to do, and we got to do it while they're pouring all kind of data at us from all kinds of directions. It's coming, and we've got to sort the wheat from the tares.
Yeah. I just want to mention that what you said is critical. And I think that there are so many forces that exist to keep us in that survival mentality. You go outside, you look up at the sky and you see white lines going across the sky and you wonder what that is.
Mm-hmm.
They're creating something to put you in that survival mentality. If you go to the supermarket and you pick up the things that are on the shelf, and these are the things that we love. I heard Dr. Bobby Price describe cheese like it was crack. Like it's something that is, but we love everything with cheese on it. You pick up the label and you see all these words on it that you can't pronounce. And we don't realize that food is medicine. I posted a picture today of a woman who was 101 years old and ran a 100-meter dash in 36.71 seconds. She's 100 years old, and you could look at her and say, well, dag, the cats in the Olympics, they trying to get to 10.5, 10.4, 10.3, and it took her 36 seconds, but she ran 100 meters in 36 seconds, and most people who are 101 years old probably won't do that. The point I'm trying to make, let me just give me a second. I just want to get to this. The survival mentality prevents us from operating from our higher mind. And as long as they can keep us in a state in which we aren't here, but we're stuck in that survival mode, they don't have to worry about us pushing the foot off their neck. That's why it's important for us, just as much as we look at our phones and look at our computers and take in all this information. If you look at so many of our scholars who have preceded us, they were reading books. It's a tactile experience that provides a tremendous benefit to us, along with the education that we get from reading the things that those who came before us gave us so that we could have a better understanding of history, culture, economics, politics, and all the things that affect our lives. We can always say that the white man is doing this and the white man is doing that, and we can always blame someone other than ourselves. But at some point, we have to take it upon ourselves to change the things that are out there to injure us. So
Mhm.
you can make a choice. You can fry the potato or bake the potato. If you bake the potato, it's less injurious to you. That you have a choice that you can make. We take the easy way out. This is an example. If you wanted to get an avocado, something that has good fats in it, something that has carbs that are good for you. If you wanted to get an avocado at 2 o'clock in the morning, you probably ain't gonna find it. But if you wanted to get a bag of Lay's potato chips, there are all kinds of places. It comes back to again the choices that we make, and we have to make the choices that will produce the best outcomes for us. We can choose to suffer with disease and maladies and all the things that affect us because of the things that we consume, or we can make better choices, exercise, and stay happy. Everybody has the ability to make that choice for themselves, and you can't blame the white man because you chose not to exercise today. You have to blame yourself. You can't blame the white man because you chose to drink Coca-Cola instead of drinking some watermelon juice or some alkaline water or some spring water or something that's going to be more beneficial to your body. These are the choices that we can make and we have to make.
But here's the funny thing, though, and for sure, you're absolutely correct. But the one thing that I will pose the question, see, I think we need, and Steve probably can agree with this too. We need a spiritual, we need a cleansing. you know, we need a cleansing. Because for us not to think like that and not to do that, something is wrong. Something is wrong. If I see an opportunity across the street, and all I need to do is to walk across the street and change my whole situation, but I'm not doing it, something is wrong. Something is wrong mentally and conscientiously. It's almost like that elephant is just tied by a little bitty rope, and he's still tied to it, and got all the strength in the world. That's us. Got all the talent. And intellectually, we talked about that through the genes. You're having 9 genomes, and white people got 6 genomes, and by having 9 genomes, your intelligent level is just accelerated because you have this ability to do. So I'm saying we got the intelligence. You talked about the physical that we have running up and back and forth down the court. You see, when you talked about Reconstruction, all the patents we could have had and the inventions that we did and the contributions we don't made to this society, they still try to figure out what they did to the pyramid, how they built the pyramids and all the rest of that stuff. We did. So we got everything that we need. Somebody psyched us out.
You're right. You're right, Hamptonio.
So,
You're right, man, brother. And Vince, I hear you, man. I'm saying to you, I won't say that the white man is making us like this. I won't say that, but I will say this: some kind of system that somebody else built has got humanity moving at the pace that it's moving, and has got the data coming at us the way it comes at us. And when data comes at us, it makes us do stuff. And some of us got
and,
the
and not do stuff too.
and
And
not
not
do
do
stuff. It
right.
makes us, it does stuff to us. And some folk can handle it better than others. That's all that's going on. And so I'm praying for and asking for, I'd like to see integration. I really do. I want to see integration. And I want to see the integration happen between black people with each other, because we have to be compassionate with each other across circles. If you're rich, if you're well off, if you know something or you're this, that, we got to be better with ourselves, each other. We need to integrate with ourselves from so many perspectives and help us heal ourselves so we can think better, Vince. Because I don't want to blame some white man for where situation I'm in, but I sure want to credit my black man for helping us get to where we need to get to and build what we need to build. Which makes this particular program that we're on right now, this tool of media, so vital and critical. I don't know of anything else that I spend my time making sure, I don't care what's going on Saturday. We'll be sitting in front of my radio or somewhere at 11 o'clock so I can hear this show. Because this show right here is talking about things that's relevant. And we need to be dealing with what's relevant and what is truly going to build us and help us build. It's obvious we better build something for ourselves, because whoever built what's at us right now, it's not built in such a way so it's going to help us. We got to build what we need that's going to help us. We have to do it.
Titles.
I want to bring up something that Brother Hamptonio brought to us a few moments ago. He mentioned the term dehumanizing. And this is something that we need to be more aware of, because as beings in this universe, we're both human and divine. Now, you talked about the Council of Nicaea at the top of the show. And one of the things that was intentional about what they did was to push us away from the divine aspect of ourselves. So sometimes you'll hear somebody say, I'm only human. That's not correct. You are human. You're also divine. So all the energy that they put into dehumanizing is something to take us further away from our divinity. All this data that we're taking in, some of it is designed to take us away from our divinity. And the way that you focus on your divinity is you close your eyes and you go within and you shut down all that stuff that's coming in. And that's where you find the power. I had a conversation with Brother Mark McLean the other day when I went to see Hugh People Vocal Ensemble over in East Cleveland, and we were talking about Qigong, and he mentioned that he's involved with it, and we talked about meditation, and he told me about the benefit of meditating for 3 hours. Now, the longest I've ever meditated for is 2 hours, but he was just talking about what happens when you can push it to 3 hours. Now, when you look at how much time we spend on our devices and the fact that you could spend 4 hours or 3 hours on your phone in a day, maybe not all at the same time, but if we can get to the point where we can shut things down, and this is advice for those who are watching right now, if you can get to a point where you can shut all that stuff down and focus on the inside, you can connect yourself with the divine aspect of your being. And that's where you will discover your power. You will be amazed at what can happen when you get into that space where you can empower your will. You can empower your imagination to create the reality that suits you, despite all the crazy chaos and wickedness and all the Diddy's and Oprah's and all that stuff out there. None of that matters when you're connected to the divine aspect within yourself. If you don't remember anything that we talked about today, because a lot has been talked about and a lot has been shared with you that will enable you to empower yourself. But if you can't remember anything that I've talked about today, I want to implore you to embrace the power of meditation. It can change your life.
And I will add this. I co-sign every single word the man just said. And why did I start talking to you today, though, about technology? Because here's what technology is doing to you and doing for you. It gives you a phone. It gives you a device that you can hold in your hand and do all this magical stuff with. And it also, all of this technology is taking away our humanity and causing us to turn a great portion of our humanity into a mutant existence we are becoming mutants because we're losing some grip on our humanity, our ability to feel, our ability to think rationally, our ability to hear. We're losing that. We're becoming mutantized by too much and the misuse of this technology. We have to use it, but if we misuse it as they have, as this society where somebody else designed, I know black folks didn't design it, but this society we're living in has us using too much of it, too fast, too much. It's taking away our humanity. So we're becoming mutants, losing our humanity while we need to be moving toward our divinity. That's the age that we're living in. And we've got to make some mental sense of all of this. We've got, it all affects our minds. One of my dear friends, Don Freeman, is always making the axiom clear to everyone that the mind is the universe. It's our mind that is helping us to make the decisions about whether we're going to head toward divinity, head toward a better humanity, or just become mutants. It's our mind. And we've got to get a grip on how we're thinking, what's making us think the way we think. I'm not better because I've got a grip on something like that. Man, we are all struggling. We are all struggling. And don't let anybody fool you. There are no masters of this. We're at the change of an age. We're at so many places. We're not going to get it all said in just this conversation. We've got to spend our time talking about more things of substance rather than what the hell is going on in Hollywood. We can't worry about what's going on in Hollywood. We can't worry about what's going on the basketball court as much. I love basketball. I love it. Love it. Love it. That's my game. But I can't spend as much time with it now as I used to because we got to get about
what's going on. Too many things. But last thing. Here's the thing. See, this wise is important to focus and paying attention to our surroundings and what's going on in trend. Vince gave us a economic trend that is going on. You know, with the Bitcoin, the cancellation of dollars and being controlled in reference to that. We got to see what's going on in the medical industry, where this trend, where these folks is taking us, where they trying to go. We got to pay attention to those things. Where are we going with this? So back to that technological area that you're talking about, where's these people going? What are they trying to do? Something Wayne Chandler said at one place where I had him speaking was just made me think. He said that back in the 80s, mid 80s, they perfected cloning. He said, where do you think they're at right now, 30 years later? Did they give up that technology? Oh, we successful in the first cow or whatever, sheep or whatever we did. Oh, okay, let's do something else. So my point is, go to Dr. Charles Morgan and listen what he was talking about to some West Point folks about this, and this was in 2015, about where they're on the verge of and what they're trying to do and what they're able to do with technology. What you're talking about, Steve, they can wipe out your whole memory like they did in
Men in Black.
Men in Black. They can wipe out your whole memory. They can plant a thought in your mind or an event in your mind that you think really happened in your life, and it didn't. They fabricated. He said they're on the borderline. If that soldier, what you've been seeing on TV, y'all, if that soldier is out there and they got somebody wounded, they can download a program to him so he know how to conduct that medical procedure and with no prior experience. This is what they talking about. They are hell bent on converging a machine with the consciousness of a man. I'm just saying it to say a cyborg. We got to understand too what we dealing with and what direction this man, and see the signs. It's almost like when they say in psychology, when you sit in a room and they constantly dim the light slower and slower until before you recognize that you were sitting in a dark room because you didn't notice the ever so slight little things there's changes that are happening. That's what's going on with it. They taking you down this, and that's the call I'm saying, people, and putting it out there. That's why I down, like you said, we like all that stuff, golf and basketball and football and all. We love that stuff. But I'm telling you, what's going on right now is we got to put a greater attention into that. Don't get all wrapped up on how many points LeBron's in, his new contract coming up, and what that's too much brain power and stuff that's not pertinent to what's going on in our society now. That's all we're saying. Pay attention to that stuff that's going on. Pay attention to the healthcare. Pay attention to what's going over in Africa. Some profound stuff that is going over in Africa that we need to be paying attention to. So that's all we're saying here, my brother.
I'm saying to you, you got to free up your mind. Free up your mind. Get a grip on your mind. Control your mind so your ass can follow. Okay? That's what I'm saying.
All right. I just want to add, Brother Stephen, I'm so glad that you brought up technology, because not all technology is bad. Not all technology is injurious. And you can leverage technology to your benefit. An example of that is solfeggio frequencies. You know, when I'm in meditation, I put on solfeggio frequencies that are intended to balance the heart chakras and do other things to create abundance. All these things, you know, it's not that the technology is bad. It's all in how you use it. You can leverage it. I look at technology with respect to my photography. You know, back in the day, I was taking pictures with film. I had to take the film out the camera, take it to the store, pay somebody to process it for me and give me prints. You know, now based on technology, I can get a 128 gigabyte SD card, shoot 3,000 pictures, see all the pictures that I took, and not have to pay somebody so that I can see the pictures that I took. Because as soon as I take the picture, I can look at it and see what I took and make any corrections that I needed. So it's not necessarily that technology is bad. It's all in how you use it. You know,
let me make my point that with an analogy that's going to help. It just is going to help. I'm saying by my word about technology is no different than Interstate 90. And when you get on we need Interstate 90. We got to have it. And there are some saints. There are some beautiful people, average, everyday people. We drive up and down Interstate 90 because we got to have it. It's the best way to go. But if you're thinking that there's not some scallywags, some drug dealers, some killers, some whatevers also on that Interstate 90, going to where they got to go to, you can use technology for good or for evil. That's all I'm saying. Technology is not evil. It's like Stevie Wonder said. It's not the religion. It's the relationship. It's who is driving whatever. If it's the tech, then when the technology is being driven by someone that has profound and wonderful wishes for society, or somebody that's got evil intent. That's all that I'm saying.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what technology is, then you don't know how to use it so that you're not being misused by it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You must use technology.
That's really the crux of the issue. The fact that technology is being utilized by folks who have evil intentions. And that's what we're pushing back against. You know, I'm thinking about babies, newborns being digitally identified in Kenya. I'm thinking about babies being digitally identified in Ghana, a country that is very close to my heart, you know, and it saddens me that people will accept these things willingly and not push back against them because they don't really understand the implications of those things. But great conversation, Brother Steve. Let
me just say this here and I'll leave it there. We're misusing technology to our babies. If we let our babies sit in front of these devices all day long, looking at whatever they're looking at and not taking those devices from them and putting them out there so they can play in the dirt, so they can learn how to climb some trees. So that's a misuse of technology, allowing your babies to sit there and look at it like that all this time. We can't do that. Right. Get our babies into nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The research indicates that you should not put one of those devices in their hands as infants or toddlers. They shouldn't have access to those devices till they're 4 or 5 years old. And truth of the matter is, because of the way their brains process information, I've seen some recent videos where the young person just completely trashed the house because his device was taken away from him. But like Steve said, back in the day, look, I can remember as a child drawing a circle in the sand, bruh. I know you remember this. You draw the circle in the sand. You had these little round glass things called marbles, and you used your thumb to knock one against the other and knock it out the circle. I can remember days when you had a little rubber ball and these little things called jacks, and you would bounce the ball, grab some jacks, and then catch the ball, and you could simple things like that. You outside. And in a perfect world, you wouldn't have any shoes on, so you would be grounded. Something that we all need to do as adults: put our feet on the ground and let the earth do what it does for us. These are very simple things. Instead of sitting in front of a television set for 4 or 5 hours watching mindless stuff, go outside and look up at the sky. Go rest your back against a tree. These are very simple things that we can all do to deal with the world that we're living in. We're at 12:39, and I've got a few stops to make. I'm going back to the Tri-C Jazz Fest to get some more pictures and listen to some great music.
Great
So I'm gonna
photography you're doing, Vince. Keep it coming.
thank you, brother. I'm just sharing a smidgen, and I'm not putting my best work out there because I know that it has some value. But this is one of the greatest joys in my life, to be able to capture these moments and to share with folks. And I'm going to be doing some type of exhibition very soon. We're putting on a calendar an exhibition of street photography soon by another local photographer. And I want to amplify the work that photographers do, because in the visual art world, photographers don't necessarily get the same love that the painters do. The painters work magic with a brush and acrylic or oil paint and all that other kind of stuff. We photographers, we just take the easy way out. We point the lens, we push the button, we capture something, and you got an instant image. But it does require work. It's
Well, you
it's
got
it,
the easy way out you got to take to get over there to Ham's Ball because he going to have them dancing, eating African food. And
yeah.
we're all over the place. So, and parading and stuff like that. So, that's
Yeah. Since
all
since
good.
we're on that, Hamptonio, why don't you give us the details about what's going to happen tomorrow night, and then I'll give a few announcements of my own.
Yeah, just basically tomorrow is the motherland touch and taste of Africa, and like I say again, the purpose of that is for us to experience, have a little experience, as far as Africa is concerned. A lot of us, talk about uh, being African American, but we don't, really know and have tasted the food or even know how to prepare it. So it's just to give us a little, a little experience of being in touch with our some of our culture. So we get a chance to come out and dress and be amongst other conscientious people who ain't afraid to be black and call themselves and have that relationship with the motherland and want to learn more about it. So sometimes it's nice being in an environment where you got people that you don't have to convince them about who they are and what they're about. And then for those curious minds, those minds who may be in search of some things to identify themselves in the culture, because a lot of information is coming out about who we are when black folks in this country in Africa and things like that. So that's our goal is to give you a little experience, and we can have the place looking decent. You get a chance to taste in the food and enjoy yourself, and then celebrating Juneteenth. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing about what you're going to do tomorrow evening is that you will be putting folks in a position to see the beauty of our culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been to Africa. You've been to Africa. You've seen people dressed in their cultural garb. Not everybody. You go to Africa and
Right.
you see people as Western as us over here.
Right. Right.
But
Exactly.
but you do see, and there's just something about the color, about our hairstyles, about who we are as a people.
And that
That
that that, that hairdress that them sisters come
yeah,
in with that hairdress on.
right. It really amplifies the beauty of our sisters. I
Mm,
look at the sisters who are in Islam, particularly the Nation of Islam, and they always have their hair covered. But what
mhm,
happens when you cover the hair is it brings out the beauty in the face
mhm,
because you're
mhm,
not distracted or
mhm,
whatever they have on their head. It kind of it amplifies the beauty. That's the
mhm,
point that I'm
mhm,
trying to make. So
mhm.
when we begin to endorse the beauty that comes with our culture, we can look around and just see how beautiful we are as a people. So unfortunately, I'll be at Rudy's Pub tomorrow night because I got a gig. I actually have an outfit because I bought an outfit last year for an African wedding that I went to last year. So I would like to show up with that, but I know that by the time I finish my gig, it'll be 10 o'clock and it'll be too late. But
Mhm.
those of you who can, I highly encourage you to attend the ball that's going to happen at the Mediterranean. You said it starts at 6 o'clock, and you want to give information about tickets and all that good stuff.
Yeah, just you can give me a call. You could pay at the door as well. You can give me a call at 216-323-6155, 216-323-6155. And even if you don't have an African guy, you could come on as you are and partake and enjoy yourself. You don't
Okay.
have to be all geared down. Just come on as you are.
All right. I also want to take the moment to amplify the program that I'm going to be doing in the Border Light Festival. It is going to be 4 days. 3 of those days I'll be doing performances, the 25th, 26th, and 27th. The programs will start at 7:30 on the 25th and the 26th, and on the 27th it will start at 5:30. You can go to borderlightcle.org if you want to get tickets, and you can get tickets to other performances as well. I also want to let you know that I'm going to be doing a tribute to Winston Willis, and I'm saying this because there are many folks who have been affected by the life of Winston Willis in this city. Um, he had 28 businesses on Euclid Avenue. And over a course of 2 weeks, all of those businesses were removed. He was arrested or kidnapped, however you want to look at it. And he was taken down to Chillicothe. And while he was down there, they knocked all of his stuff to the ground. And he hasn't received any type of compensation for that. This is a fight or a struggle of his that is still alive as he is still alive. And he hasn't given up. He's hoping that through some legal means he may be able to recover, and we don't know whether or not that's going to happen, but the world needs to know. So I'm using this program to amplify his story, and I'm encouraging you to go to this website, find the show. It's called Unmasked: Navigating a New World Order, and you'll be able to purchase your tickets on that website. So again, I'll be at Rudy's tonight or tomorrow evening from 6 to 9 p.m., and I'll be doing a Neighborhood Connections Network Night. It's an occasion that artists come together, do some networking. I'll be playing piano for that event, so I want to encourage you to attend as well. It's going to be at 6 p.m. at the Brown Hoist at 4430 St. Clair Avenue, right here in Cleveland. It's another place that is welcoming artists to do what they do in the city. I'll also say this. I've been involved with the Transformative Art Fund for several months now, and I know people are anxiously awaiting to find out who got those grants that range from $250,000 to $500,000. And I'll just say this: the announcement is going to be made very soon, sooner than later. I can't say exactly when. I did sign a non-disclosure agreement, so it limits what I can say. But I will say that stay tuned because an announcement is forthcoming, and we're looking forward to the impact that these grants and these projects will have on the city of Cleveland. We didn't talk too much about the ransomware event that happened at Cleveland City Hall and a few other things, but we're dealing with all of the things that come at us, and hopefully
We
within
did.
the past hour and 47 minutes, you have gotten something that will equip you to face
Mhm.
this chaotic, dismal reality that some see, while others see it as the greatest time in history to be alive. I want to say and hope that it's more of the latter and not the former, but it all depends on what you do to affect your own reality. So, with all that
Yeah.
said, make
What
sure
what
you
one of the things, Vince?
go
One of the
ahead.
things, Faith Credit had an issue too with a attack. Faith Credit Union on 93rd.
Oh, the credit union.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, there are all kinds of folks out there that justify your purchase of antivirus, anti-spyware, anti-malware, all that stuff. People are always busy figuring out ways that they can make folks pay, and the
Absolutely.
whole idea with ransomware is to hold your data hostage until you come up with some money that satisfy the person that took your data hostage. So however they deal with it, I know it's under investigation and they can't say too much about it, but you know,
Mhm.
hopefully things will work out and we'll be able to move forward. So with all that said, it's been a great conversation, brother. You always amaze me with your knowledge of the scholars like Amos Wilson and some of the others that you quote, and I think there's a benefit that comes from having that knowledge and sharing it with our public, because they need to read the same books. They need to have access to that knowledge and wisdom, and they need to be able to implement those things within their own lives. With all that said, as we always do when we close, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace, y'all.
Peace, peace.